This is a land so much older than its years. So ancient and mystical, in fact, that anything and its opposite can be true. A land where legend and mythology, even magical tales, can explain events every bit as truly as historical fact. This is sacred ground. It was a holy mountain for the Druids long before St. Patrick arrived on his mission to bring Christianity to Ireland. It has been said that St. Patrick himself fasted 40 days and 40 nights on this summit, swarming with pagan demons. And when he finally rang his blessed black bell, his Clegeen Dubh, all the snakes in Ireland plunged to their deaths. So each year, more than 100,000 believers make a pilgrimage here and follow Patrick's path up the mountain. Many of them walk barefoot, as Patrick did, to attend Mass at the small chapel on the summit. On the River Corrib is an old city so lively and full of warmth, it has become a symbol for almost everything that is good about Ireland. St. Nicholas, the medieval cathedral, remains a jewel of Galway's first golden age, when she was a great trading centre with Europe. It is said that Christopher Columbus himself once attended Mass here in Galway. A second economic golden age has recently come to Galway, and to the rest of Ireland as well. Membership in the European Union and the growth of high-tech industries have created a robust economy in Ireland, one the financial world has nicknamed the Celtic Tiger. The social hub of the city is historic Eyre Square, fronted by a small park dedicated to the memory of John F. Kennedy, who came to Galway when he was President of the United States. So when you sing the praises of Galway City, it is really Ireland herself you're serenading. The sweet River Shannon flows southward through the Midlands, but we will follow it upriver to the 6th century monastic site of Clonmacnoise. Brought down by repeated attacks of Vikings, Normans, the English, and ill-disposed Irish, its spiritual aura is still profoundly felt, even in its ruin. Here are the burial sites of the royalty of the kingdoms of Tara and Connacht. Here are the treasured high Celtic crosses of Clonmacnoise. Another ancient ruler of Connacht was the remarkable warrior queen, Maeve, who ruled this land centuries before St. Patrick arrived on the scene. Because it's considered very bad luck to remove any stone from her grave, there are 40,000 tons of them, the Queen's burial mound remains unexcavated. You don't see formations like these in many places in the world. Drumlins, we call them. Low mounds formed by an ice sheet millennia ago. Seen in the lake in the morning mist, you'd think you'd come upon a great family of green Irish whales. The fog here is usually thick and the breakers high. The North Atlantic coast has some of the island's harshest weather. Ages of squalls and fierce winds, however, have smoothed the coastline and given it a deceptively gentle look. This neo-Gothic castle presiding over Donegal Bay is modest by most old aristocratic standards. The Irish word bawn means high tower, and it was built primarily as a lookout to spot potential invaders. The castle became the vacation home of Lord Mountbatten, who, along with members of his family, were victims of the violent sectarian struggle that has riven Ireland for decades, and before that for centuries. One can only wonder why a place so beautiful should have become so tragic a setting. But that, too, has been Ireland. The men who fished these treacherous waters must have the courage to match the sea's brutal and unpredictable force. Temple Mussenden, a great classical library, is a remarkable site, perched as it is on the verge of these County Derry cliffs. It was part of Downhill Castle, long since burned to a shell. Ah, but in its heyday, what a history. The estate was built by Frederick Hervey, the Protestant Earl Bishop of nearby Londonderry. This was no commonplace ecclesiastic, rather a collector of fine art, a ladies' man, a spy against Napoleon, and a very enlightened Anglican prelate who invited a Catholic priest to hold mass in the temple library. Sometimes legend anticipates even modern science, as with the mythic explanation of Ireland's geological wonder, the Giant's Causeway. The great Ulster giant, Finn McCool, such a name, fell in love with a Scottish giantess who dwelt across the North Channel. He had to do battle to win her, so he built a land bridge to Scotland. 40,000 erect columns, many of them perfectly shaped hexagons, are what remain of his labours. Or, if you prefer, you may choose to believe the more mundane scientists who claim that a volcanic eruption 60 million years ago resulted in cooling lava that took these rare and remarkable forms. Most of us prefer the Finn McCool version. The rope bridge in Carrick-a-Reid, County Antrim, is not permanent. It is slung each year for the annual summer salmon run. The nets, set in the same place every year, fill in great numbers. What is bad luck for the salmon becomes a thrilling memory for intrepid tourists. Here is proof that Finn McCool knew what he was about. Scotland is so close by, you almost feel you could walk there. And maybe in the distant past, with giant steps, you could. These glens are among the most charming and peaceful in all of Ireland. They hardly prepare us for the descent into the capital of Ulster, home to 500,000 people, 1/3 of Northern Ireland's population. The ground on which much of Belfast is built is waterlogged. This memorial tower has tipped ever so slightly since it was erected 140 years ago. The hub of Belfast life is not so much its opulent city hall itself as the Donegal Square, the great rectangle of lawn and flower beds that front it. Here are statues of Queen Victoria and Belfast's history of shipbuilding, most especially the Titanic, built here in 1912. All major bus lines converge here at the city's shopping centre. And if you're planning to meet a friend, it's best done at Donegal Square. Belfast's great Anglican cathedral is of recent construction because it was difficult to stabilise the ground beneath it. Perhaps its finest feature is the modest ecumenical chapel where people of all denominations gather regularly for worship. Badly damaged during the Troubles, this gilt and scarlet Grand Dame on Great Victoria Street has been lavishly restored. Its lush facade is once again as ornate as it ever was. Queen's University, one of Ireland's very finest, is situated in the more fashionable part of town. Very near the Botanical Gardens, on the shore of Belfast's River Lagan. Belfast has always been a major international port, and now ships from Great Britain and many other European Union countries make it a regular port of call. In fact, the whole waterfront area is reinventing and reconstructing itself. And in the process giving new energy and new hope to the entire city. And that hope was really ignited right here in this very building on April 10th, 1998, with the signing of the unprecedented Good Friday Accord, which sought to put an end to decades of sectarian violence. No, anger and resentment did not die that day. But on that day, hope was born. Morning usually comes softly to vast Lough Neagh, by far the largest lake in Ireland. But its size can be a little deceptive, for it is also remarkably shallow, at no point deeper than 50 feet. This old Ulster town is the seat of Ireland's Anglican and Roman Catholic archbishops, and as such it is the ecclesiastical capital of the country. No wonder then that two great cathedrals dominate its landscape. Ironically, each lays claim to the same patron saint. They're each called St. Patrick's. Yes, the old Stuart family mansion is indeed palatial, and the lands of the estate on Strangford Lough are vast and impressive. But it is the unmatched gardens here that attract so many knowledgeable tourists. the turn of the last century, Lady Londonderry, the estate's mistress, a devotee of formal gardens, began to transform Mount Stuart into a spectacular place to wander. Renowned for its topiary, the art of sculpting hedges, each of the gardens is as different and surprising as it is breathtakingly beautiful. This great mound at Brú na Bóinne, which means palace by the River Boyne, is also a gravesite. Much like the Egyptians, the ancient Irish built vast tombs with hidden passageways, only they used mounds instead of pyramids. Above the entranceway is an opening known as the roof box. Precisely at dawn of December 21st each year, the winter solstice, the sun's rays pierce directly into the dark chamber. This excavated site is about 5,000 years old. Other large prehistoric tombs, like this one at Knowth, dot the landscape where the bend in the river turns to the sea. The treasure widely accepted as the world's most beautiful book, the illuminated religious manuscript known as the Book of Kells, was created in a monastery here. It is indeed a wonder to behold. Should you wish to see it, it awaits you at Trinity College Library in Dublin. Only a stone's throw south of Dublin, the Wicklow Mountains give the inhabitants of the capital city easy access to superb natural settings. A leisurely Sunday afternoon picnic on the grass is made all the better when it is above the highest waterfall in Ireland. In this isolated Wicklow Valley are the ruins of a monastic community that existed here 1,000 years ago. Its past still resonates and calls longingly to believers now. Here, St. Kevin started a small monastery that grew in size and religious fervour until it became the cherished destination of Christian pilgrims for centuries. great modern ferries bring visitors from other European countries to our southern coast. Where on a drive inland, they can't possibly miss the charm of old Ireland. Because the Fitzgerald family hailed from County Wexford originally, this arboretum was created in honour of a renowned American cousin, President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. When you first see the Rock of Cashel rising out of the Tipperary Plains, you can see why they call it Ireland's Acropolis, for it embodies so many centuries of Irish history. St. Patrick came here to baptize the pagan kings of Munster. Generations of those kings variously accepted and rejected the Church's authority, until King Murtagh O'Brien ceded Cashel to the Church in 1101, when most of these great buildings were erected. Over the years, Cashel has been attacked, defended, pillaged and burned. The most tragic episode occurred in 1647, when Cromwell's army piled peat against the outside of the cathedral and set it ablaze, burning all 3,000 people huddled within for safety. An historical sadness seems to pervade Cashel. Complete with amusement park, Ireland's Coney Island is Tramore along the Waterford coast. You wonder if there's enough sunblock in the world to protect pale Celtic skin during a day at the beach. It's well known that anyone who kisses the Blarney Stone is endowed with the gift of gab. Most Irishmen, therefore, find kissing the stone unnecessary. Ah, but tourists come in droves. Planting the kiss itself is no easy matter. It requires hanging upside down over a steep precipice. This is the Republic of Ireland's second city. Now one of the many places in the country raised high by Ireland's great financial success. The heart of the city sits on an island formed by parallel channels of the River Lee and is really made for walking, especially on busy St. Patrick's Street, a particularly colourful main thoroughfare. The very good life here now belies the fact that in recent centuries, from this very port of Cork, almost 3 million people, driven to desperation by famine and unemployment, were forced to leave their homeland. In many instances, Cork was the last they ever saw of Ireland. Those times of hardship always remain part of our collective memory. But now, nowhere does the Celtic tiger roar any louder than it does right here in Cork. There are many classical churches in Cork, but St. Finbarr's in the French Gothic style is perhaps the most dramatic. It happens to be Anglican. Some of Ireland's most beautiful lakes and mountain scenery lie within the boundary of Killarney National Park. Here, the very best of Ireland has been preserved. The Skellig Islands, 10 miles from the mainland, first appear as a mirage on the water. Only as you approach Little Skellig, a preserve and bird sanctuary where no boats are allowed to land, do you sense the natural wonder before you. Here, the colonies of razorbills and shearwaters, kittiwakes, gannets and erns hold sway, and we are privileged simply to gaze on them. The larger island, Skellig Michael, is a World Heritage Site, sometimes accessible by boat, depending of course on the very changeable weather conditions. You have to climb several hundred steps if you want to visit the old lighthouse. Even less accessible are the remains of the 8th century monastic order of St. Finian, that inhabited this isolated island for more than 500 years. These ascetics sought to be away from the world, and their quest was surely answered here, where they believed they had found God. The ruins of a church, oratories, and stone shelters remain as evidence of their otherworldly devotion. And if by chance you happen to visit Skellig Michael someday, it's an excellent idea not to miss the last boat back to the mainland. Of course, everyone has his own favourite Ireland. Most often it's the place where the family has its roots, but for many savvy tourists, it's the West Country and its haunting coastline that calls them back repeatedly. These wind-swept cliffs of Moher are as magnificent a piece of natural sculpture as one is likely to find anywhere in the world. A long, winding road runs parallel to the cliff edge, but be warned, sudden gusts of wind can make flirting with that edge a very dangerous enterprise. Life on any of the 3 Aran Islands is unforgiving, whether for those who go to sea or remain on the rock-strewn land. Imagine the toil required by generations of families just to clear these small fields and erect these walls on the Isle of Inishmaan. But this is what life on the Isles of Arran has always been. This is one of the finest prehistoric forts in all of Europe. 3 stone rings of defense protected a small citadel at the brink of the cliff. If defenses failed and surrender was not a possibility, the sheer cliff presented a disastrous plunge of 200 feet to rocky shoals. Of the islands, Inishmore is the largest and most habitable, but with the Arrans that is a relative term. Its somewhat sheltered harbour can support a small fishing fleet, and the island does draw curious and courageous tourists. The smallest of the islands, Inisheer, is closest to the mainland, and on rare summer days looks absolutely serene. Back on the mainland, the terrain doesn't change a great deal. And no, this is not a giant's picnic table, rather the burial place of Irish chieftains. Here in the Burren, which in Old Irish means place of rock, populated continually for over 6,000 years, there is, as was famously said by an English soldier, not any tree to hang a man from, nor water to drown him, or even enough earth to bury him in. Excellent golf courses abound throughout Ireland, for it's a game we're passionate about. But some of the most scenic, spectacular and difficult courses can be found in these counties of Kerry and Cork. The love of horses is just in our blood, and seeing them race fills us with tremendous excitement, especially when we've a few bob, better make that euros now, on the winner. In truth, thoroughbred racing and breeding is one of the country's most important industries. This castle on the outskirts of Limerick has been restored to its authentic 16th century magnificence. Here, on summer evenings, visitors can stroll across the lawn and enter the Great Hall, where medieval-styled banquets are prepared, complete with strolling minstrels and saucy serving wenches. For authenticity's sake, visitors are not provided with silverware, so bring your own napkins. We simply don't have enough time to recount all the occasions on which this fair city along the River Shannon has been sacked, pillaged or burned. It's known to Irish historians as the city of endless sieges. King John's Castle, built in the 13th century, the most important Norman stronghold in Western Ireland, was one of the few fortifications that managed to hold off attacking armies more or less successfully for many centuries. Probably it is easiest to remember this town, as most of us do, for the comic and often wicked verse form, the Limerick, that was invented here in the 19th century. The traffic through town can be troubling, and police stops can cause lots of grumbling. But if we take to the air over County Kildare, this Limerick has flown us to Dublin. This is the quiet way to approach Dublin, up over Ireland's staid National Botanical Gardens, From here, you'd not believe you were in one of Europe's most lively and stylish capital cities. Only when you approach St. Stephen's Green, the elegant public park on the city's south bank, and pass through the great Fusiliers Arch onto the pedestrian walk on Grafton Street, do you really begin to get the rich human flavour of this dynamic city. Grafton Street will lead us to Trinity College, Dublin, known here simply as TCD. In these hallowed halls, Irish intellect has been tutored and trained for over 400 years. The alumni of this place embodies everything remarkable about Ireland, from the satirist Jonathan Swift, the statesman Edmund Burke, the rebel leader Wolfe Tone, to playwrights Oscar Wilde and Samuel Beckett, down to, in recent times, Mary Robinson, the first woman president of Ireland and one of the designers of Ireland's brilliant economic recovery. The rigours of student life are, of course, so demanding that everyone needs a break from time to time. Dublin offers just the right libations and plenty of atmospheric places to rest an elbow. Dublin bestrides the River Liffey, whose banks are joined by more than a dozen bridges. This one is the most charming. It began service in 1816 as the Wellington Bridge, but then officially was renamed the Liffey Bridge. But everyone here knows it as the Halfpenny Bridge because a halfpenny is what you had to pay to cross it in the old days. The O'Connell Bridge takes us to the North Bank and the wide thoroughfare of O'Connell Street. Here are some of the city's most fashionable shops and art galleries. Down the centre of the broad street are statues of many famous Dubliners, and the towering metallic structure Dubliners proudly call the Spire. But on Easter Monday of 1916, O'Connell Street was anything but fashionable. It was the scene of a stormy rebellion known as the Easter Rising. From the steps of the General Post Office, armed Irish nationalists proclaimed Ireland an independent state. British troops put down the uprising very harshly, all but destroying the post office with shell fire and forcing the rebels to surrender. The post office, now a national monument, has been restored, but some of the battle scars of that day have been left untouched, a bitter memory of what once was. In the past, this castle has been a symbol of English power in Ireland. People under suspicion by the Crown languished in its prisons, and traitors' heads were prominently displayed on spikes from its towers. But since the establishment of an independent Ireland, the Free State, in 1922, Old Dublin Castle has taken on a new significance. It is finally and irrevocably, truly Irish. The long saga of Ireland's travails has unfortunately filled many an unhappy history book. So it is a great pleasure to hear myself say that our deep, long night appears to be over at last. Our brief morning sun has finally risen and is so beautiful to see. It is very sweet indeed, watching Ireland's brightest day unfold. Yes, our journey has indeed taken a very hopeful turning, and such a cheering thing it is. But this island is also a place that goes deeper than the good times or the bad. It is, was, and always shall be home.